sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenix. So yesterday, I talked a little bit about lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. We got into animals and things, and it's so interesting how life, and you start thinking, you start studying things, and then that's where your mind goes consistently, right? When we get kind of that natural bias, we start to imagine things. And this is where sometimes I've got a great memory and sometimes I don't. So if someone remembers what the name of this effect is, but when you start thinking of things or you're introduced to something and then you see it on a continued basis, like you buy a red pickup truck and then you see red pickup trucks everywhere, right?
Is that called synchronicity?
That might be one term for it. There's another one. There's a different one. Cognitive dissonance. Thank you, Sarah and Craig. Exactly. So yeah, where your brain just starts to recognize things. And so as I was thinking about this example yesterday, this metaphor of being caged, a couple of different stories and examples popped up on social media, as if they were calling to me. And it's a lot like when I get into a topic here and someone goes, man, it's just like you said exactly what I needed to hear. No, you heard a message and then you heard the message inside of that message that you needed to hear is often what happens. But so yesterday we were talking about being locked up in the cage. Today I saw something about, and it was Steve Harvey from Family Feud in his own show. And you guys know him, bald guy, big mustache. But he does it's interesting when he does his talk show, he's a comedian, like that was his career. And now he also does other forms of entertainment, but he's got, the game show Family Feud. He's got his talk show before and after. I don't know if it's before and after, but at one point, probably after his show, you can find clips of him online where he'll answer questions from the audience and almost do a little motivational speaking. Right. It's real interesting. He answers questions and talks about success and talks about overcoming obstacles. And he was talking this clip that I saw, and he was comparing us to, the seed of an oak tree. And I said, you can plant that seed, but if you plant that seed in a pot and then you water it and you nurture it, it'll grow, but it'll only grow to a certain extent. It'll never go beyond what that pot allows it to grow. That's all you're going to get. Right? And yet, if you plant it in the wild and then you go out and you nurture it and take care of it, you have an opportunity for it to grow into this grand and majestic oak. There's a reason that, sturdy as an oak is a saying, at least here in the States. Like there's a reason for all of these ideas behind this big, magnificent oak tree because they can grow into something incredible. But if they never get out of the side of that pot, they are beholden to the resources and the environment in which they grow up. And if you want to change, then you've got to change, right? So all of us are now at the point that we are past the environment that we grew up in. Most of us aren't still living in the house that we were born in, I would wager. You're now out in the wild, as it were, and now you've got this opportunity to nurture and grow. But you've got to do that, right? The environment that you now create around you, the bubble, or whether you accept everything, right? Are you creating a momentum bubble? Are you creating an environment that allows you to grow? And this is where, when it comes to growth and success, this is where you need to be almost savagely, selfish in a way. Like if there are things that are draining from your energy, you need to get rid of them. If there are constraints that are holding you in place, you need to break free, you need to leave. If there are people that are acting as energy vampires or emotional vampires, if you're in some type of relationship that isn't beneficial to you, you need to get away. The conversation came up as we're dealing with this, with the wedding. And then because we're traveling, a lot of people go, man, that's a great idea. But then we end up with, oh, but you should do it like this and this and this, because that would be easier for them. And at the same time, wedding and ceremony is about our commitment and what we want to celebrate. And hopefully you can celebrate that with us. But if you're not willing to do that, that's okay. This isn't about you. But how many people do you have in your life that constantly treat you like that? How many people are still in your life simply because they were in your life at some other point, in the past, and you allow them to stick around? Meanwhile, you're going through this process and you're trying to become something different. You're trying to grow. You're trying to change. Now, unfortunately, that growth and that change, get rid of what is clearly not working. Unfortunately, that growth and that change doesn't happen overnight. And this is where the second story that I got to listen to came in. How many of you are familiar with, and I spoke about this probably more than a year ago, so a couple of you may have heard it, but how many of you are familiar with Chinese bamboo and the growth pattern of Chinese bamboo? Some of you have heard this story, okay? And it's absolutely just awesome. So I want you to picture bamboo, a bamboo forest, if you will. 5 years ago, that bamboo forest was probably barren. When you plant bamboo, and let's assume that we've given it fertile ground, we've taken care of it. It's there. It's in a place that, is allowed to grow, and we plant it. And you water it, and you nurture it, and you take care of it. You make sure no wild animals come in and destroy the plot. You're taking care of this bamboo, this seed. And a year later, you look up, and you've got nothing. Still the same plot of dirt. Nothing's going on. Meanwhile, people in the neighborhood are kind of starting to look around going, Cindy's out there every day taking care of that, but it's just dirt. I don't know what she's doing. Some of you guys are farmers or spend some time gardening. Year 2 comes around and you spend time out there each week taking care of it, nurturing that plot of land, trying to get that bamboo to grow. Neighbors are still walking around going, hey, you look like you're taking care of that yard really well. What are you doing there? This is kind of that silk that grows the emperor's new clothes. What are we doing? Nothing happens at the end of year 2. Nothing happens at the end of year 3. Nothing happens at the end of year 4. You've now taken care of and nurtured and planted and protected these bamboo seeds for years and years and years, until finally, sometime in the 5th year, they sprout. You know what happens with bamboo once it sprouts? It goes from nothing over the course of years to, within a matter of weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, it can grow up to 80 to 90 feet, 30 meters in height in a matter of weeks. So now the question becomes, did it take 8 weeks for that bamboo to grow, or did it take 5 years? Well, obviously it took 5 years, because if you take away the years ahead of time, then nothing's going to happen, right? You wouldn't have that. Sugarcane grows a lot faster overall. It grows quick, but it doesn't take years and years and years. And I spent some time in Brazil, and we would grab sugarcane all the time, and then in-laws had it on their plot of land out here. But yeah, so it takes 5 years, guys. It takes that amount of time. You're working on yourselves right now, and you have those days where you wake up and you go, I'm planting, I'm nourishing, I'm taking care of myself. I'm making sure my environment is okay. I've removed some of these constraints. Why haven't I grown up yet? Why haven't I done this? Why haven't I done that? If you are looking at it in that way, you're going to struggle. You're looking at it with this gap between the ideal and the actual. You're judging things based off of how you want them, and here's where this shift starts to happen, hopefully mentally and emotionally, where you start to look at it and you realize that the faith that you gain in the works that you do begins to increase. The individual that you become, due to the character that's been developed going through the ups and downs and having to nurture yourself, that character of becoming that individual becomes a strength. The things that you learn during that time and hopefully share to better other people's lives, that becomes something that allows you to, spread a certain amount of joy and happiness and motivation to others. But you've got to be patient through that process. It doesn't just happen overnight. Okay. So what I'd like you guys to do, go watch, look up the Chinese bamboo, Les Brown, or just the Chinese bamboo story, any of the 3 to 5 minute videos. Les Brown telling that story he's Les Brown. So one of the best speakers in history. And he's up there giving the speech, and it's absolutely fantastic. But the point of all of this is this, guys, is, you know, are you still behind that cage? Do you have the restrictions around you? Are you, you know, even if you've moved out of where you grew up, are you still living your life as if you're still planted in the pot? Or are you letting your roots get out there? Are you letting yourself grow? Because a lot of you have moved, and yet you still live with those same restrictions. Well, I would, but, you know, this and this, or so-and-so is going to say that. Or, guys, live your life with everything that you have, with all of the power in your beings. Become the best version of you, and the rest of it won't matter much, truthfully, right? You'll become as successful as you want to be here. You'll be able to do other things. Your health will be better. You'll sleep better, because you'll know that you're giving everything that you can to your truest self, as opposed to living your life for others and with the fetters and restrictions that they've placed upon you. Break out of that. Okay. Go out and be spectacular. So, on that note, I love you guys. I will talk with you tomorrow. We're going to get into, I've got some ideas on content and things, and then SEO will be towards the end of the week. I'll drop in we've got a little website with kind of the announcement, what's going on, what's happening with the links on there. So I'll drop that in for some of you guys if you'd like to. And if not, that's totally fine. If some of you guys are just going, great, I get next Tuesday off, I don't have to worry about it. Awesome. No problems. But I will still be here tomorrow. And then throughout the time that we're gone, most of the days, I'm still going to be the one doing the high performance. I've got a couple of friends that are going to be taking over on certain days. So continue to plan on Monday through Friday. I've kind of talked Blake into doing a handful of those meetings as well, and he'll be hosting some, Darren will be hosting some, and then I'll have a couple of other episodes.
Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet.
Just go forward.
So what do you need to do?
All right.
How do you stand out?
What you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think.
Bye from the Adams and Fly Like the Phoenixes.